Hi, welcome to Oracle Backups for Unitrends System Administration course. By the end of this module, you'll be able to determine which backup approach to use based on your Oracle configuration, and you'll also be able to configure and run Oracle backup jobs using Unitrends best practices. Let's take a look at determining your backup approach first. How you backup your Oracle server depends on your implementation of Oracle and your data retention and data recovery requirements. We're going to wrap both of those up and take a look at them around the Unitrends best practices today. Your backup approach depends on how you've implemented Oracle. So if you're running Oracle 11G or 12C on Windows, Linux, or Solaris, in most cases you can use the Unitrends Oracle Agent Backup. If you're not using Oracle RAC, which is Ready Application Clustering, if your databases are configured in open and archive log modes, that's very important. If you're not using RAC and your databases are configured in open and archive log modes, your database must also be online. Your instances must be running on an NFS file storage, and you must be able to mount that CIFS or NFS share. Now, you can also run native Oracle backups, then you want to also run Unitrends file level backups across your agents. Now, if you have older versions of Oracle, prior to 11G, if you're running Oracle RAC, if you're configured in modes other than open and archive log, and if your instances are running on non-NFS file storage, you have to run native Oracle backups and then use the Unitrends agent-based file level backups to pick up those Oracle backups. Now, the agent approach is preferred whenever it is supported. You can only run one, not both, of these methods on any given server across those databases. Running a file level backup directly on a database won't get you that database backup. Make sure you run a native backup first across the database and then run a Unitrends file level agent backup to pick up that flat file dump. Now, the Oracle application backup protects just your Oracle data. Same thing we saw when we looked at the other modules as well, too. So you may want to create additional backups to be able to recover the whole server. Once again, we've got an example of the Oracle server here. We've got database files and control files, SPF file. There's also the archive and the redo logs. All right, once again, on any Oracle server, whether it's Windows, Linux, or Solaris, we've got the operating system, the boot volume, and the local file and folder structure and the volume structure. Now, when you run Oracle agent-based backups, that agent goes in and grabs just the database files for the Oracle databases. You have to run separate backups to grab the operating system. Now, when you want to recover the database, you can use the agent to put just the databases back. Also, that's a bonus. If you lose the entire server, you have to recover the entire server first through the file level, hypervisor, or agent level backups. You're going to recover the entire server, then you can recover the database. Two separate backups. You may have to create additional backups to be able to recover that entire server. Now, if you're running Linux agent-based file level backups or incremental forever, you must exclude the database objects from the backup. So if you're running Linux agent-based file level incremental forevers across an Oracle server, you must exclude the database objects from that backup schedule, that backup job. In the details, you must exclude the database working directory. Let's take a look at how Oracle backups work. So once again, there's two sides. There's the appliance side, the Unitrends appliance, whether it's physical or virtual. Then we've got our Oracle client, and that client could be Windows or Linux, and it's running the Unitrends agent. Right? So once again, we start a job off, and it is initiated inside of Tasker. Right? Once those resources become available, RAE checks the SMB comp file, and it mounts the SMB share based on that configuration file. Now, the agent receives the remote execution. So Tasker and the RAE are going to send over the job and say, hey, Oracle client, I got this backup to do. And it's going to pass that job to the RMAN, the Oracle Recovery Manager. Now, RMAN, it writes that backup based on those settings. It writes it directly to the share that Step 2 opened up. And once Unitrends reads that backup from the share, it's going to create its own Unitrends Oracle recovery point from that share. Right? Once it's done with that, the share is cleaned up and then it's torn down and the backup process is completed. All right, now setting up your Oracle backups, to set them up, you're going to need to install the required components. You're going to make sure you configure your environment as specified. And you're also going to make sure you take into consideration your recovery point objectives and your recovery needs once again. You're going to look at your database size and the rate of change to kind of determine what types of backups and how frequently you're going to run them. Once again, for storage and free space, 2 times the backup size. You want to get the initial set. You also need to make sure you have enough room to get another set of fulls whenever you need to run those. It's recommended to run a full plus incremental strategies. You're going to run either weekly or bi-weekly fulls and daily incrementals. Usually a weekly full and a daily incremental, once or twice a day. We're going to also show you how to create the recommended backup jobs today for the Oracle Application Agent. When we look at the installed required components, once again, you always have to make sure you're running usually the latest version of the Unitrends agent. Right? These note that just down here in this list, these are the minimums. So if you're running Oracle 12c, you want to make sure you're running at least 7.4 or greater, 11G on Windows 7.0 or greater, and 11G on Linux and Solaris 7.2 or greater. Once again, you always really want to make sure you're running the newest version of the Unitrends agent and the newest version of the Unitrends appliance software as well too. And once again, if you're running Unitrends on Linux, you'll also need to make sure you install the Oracle Dependency Agent. Make sure you check the Unitrends agent release page to see if there's an Oracle Linux Dependency Agent for your version of Linux. Usually there is. We're going to show you that in the demo today. I am running Oracle on Linux, so you can see that side of it in the demo. When you talk about configuring your environment, you want to make sure your database is configured in open and archive log modes, and make sure it's online. Those are the 3 big ones. If it's not open and archive log and it's not online, we can see it sometimes, but we can't back it up. And if it's in all 3, we can put it in a schedule. We can run manual backups against it. It has to be online and configured in open and archive log modes. Your instances, once again, must be running on an NFS file storage. You must be able to mount CIFS or NFS shares from that Oracle server. You're also going to make sure you register the Oracle server in the Unitrends system. In our user interface, you're going to register that Oracle asset so we can see the database assets underneath the Oracle instance. There's also credentials we have to take into consideration. Now, the system user credentials are required to perform backups and restores, and it must be a member of the Aura DBA group. And if you're running on Linux or Solaris, you're going to add that DB credential for each database you want to protect. Now, for Linux only, the user account must also be in the PAM, or the pluggable authentication module. Right, make sure you can log into the machine as that same account as well, too. Now, for Windows, the NT Authority system user is already defaulted a member of the Aura DBA group, and the additional credentials aren't needed for usually Oracle databases running on Windows. Now, if you're using Windows Agent Push feature, you're going to set the credentials at the client level. If the user's already in the Aura DBA group, you can use that. Otherwise, if it's a custom account, you're going to go and add that DB credential for each database that you want to protect based on those unique credentials. Now, if you're not using the agent push, then you have to add those credentials for each database you want to protect. It doesn't inherit any rights from the node, from the agent node, to try those credentials, so you have to go into each database asset and set those credentials across each asset, each database. We're going to show you some of that in the demo today as well, too. Now, there are a couple additional considerations for Oracle Agent backups running on Solaris. You want to make sure you have the full path name to each Solaris object is less than 1024. There's a KB article out there, 1564, for more information on the full path name on character count for Solaris. You also want to make sure you have sufficient memory allocated when you're using the Solaris platform. There's KB Article 1313 that talks about sufficient memory or memory allocation when you're running Oracle specifically on the Linux or Solaris platform. There are a few last additional considerations for Oracle agents. This really applies to all of them. Once again, you can only have one restore or backup operation per database can run at any given time. All right, so if I have 10, 15 databases, I queue up 10 or 15 of them. They're going to run through one at a time. I can't go and put a restore into the queue. A given Oracle database can be protected only by one Unitrends system. An Oracle database can only be protected by one Unitrends system and cannot be included in the Oracle Enterprise Manager schedule. Each Oracle system ID on a client must be unique. And for Oracle on Windows, the restore requires that the file system has the same structure as when the database was initially backed up. So it has to go back to the same location. The databases have to be in the same location. The application has to be in the same location. Once again, there's a special call out down here at the bottom that if you're running Unitrends Oracle Agent backups, they must be configured in open and archive log modes, and you cannot be using Oracle RAC. Next, we're going to watch the how-to video tutorial on creating and managing Oracle backup jobs.